1995 Challenger 75C, 10 litre cat engine, 325 horsepower, running on Camzo Ag 550 25-inch belts. These were new last year. Mega grip on these. Cool. Nearly as much as the Challengers were. And then we're just DP2, 12-inch, 34-inch point-to-point clearance, so pretty much just standard Dowdeswell spec plough. It's 11 yards long. He's a bit of a lump. We've got a long clear plough, but that's on different points, and that doesn't seem to want to pull in the ground quite so well. We're running on a pivot and headstock. These were originally sort of run just on a linkage with that wheel with caster, and now you see that assembly there that stops with the cartridge. So there'd be a dog on that, like that. And then they did what they call a semi-pivot, which was just it gave you about 8 degree of pivot. It sort of went in where the wheels are, but there'd be no wheels. That would be equally as bad. And then in the late 80s, they developed this pivot and headstock. So you lock that up, and then it all follows you about pretty well. So there's a Dowdeswell linkage that was supplied with these. It's all running pretty centrally. Like, trouble is, like, you can drive these by eye, and you don't realise until you go and slap guidance on something how much of an allowance you actually make for the idiosyncrasies of a Dowdeswell plough. You know, essentially these are just like a blacksmith kind of plough. I think this one's 1978, so like Dave, we call this Dave's plough. Dave normally ploughs with this, and like it ploughs lovely. Like Dave always does a nice job with it. Either it's on the 47 or the D6. But like, got guidance on this cat, so we're on an FM 750 Trimble screen with, I think I'm on centre point guidance. So it's not RTK, it's probably like an SF2 level kind of accuracy, I guess, like 3 centimetre sort of thing. But of course that just sends the cat at that fixed width the whole time. I did I think they call it a roll-in calibration on this the other day. John Deere would call it a TCM, where you line it up in one direction on a flat bit of ground, mark the drive axles, spin around, put it back in exactly the same place, so that it kind of like knows where it is in the world. Did all that the other day, checked that, and it was like running bout to bout, absolutely perfect. So that was all sound. Did a full calibration on the turns, so it knew like what it was doing. And do that at a working speed. So I think I did that at 5k at 1600 RPM. So to try and replicate what you're doing on a daily basis and how it would normally work. Of course, when you start ploughing with this plough, guidance exaggerates everything that a plough does, or any bit of equipment. If it pulls one way or other, that'll magnify that kind of thing. You'll see that difference. So this has been pulling one way a little bit. You can watch the headstock; it just kicks over one way going down the field. So got a bit of an offset set in to do that. We've never had guidance to this before, so technically it should be 2.7 metres wide, but actually the guidance is running at 3.05. I think I could probably shave that down to like 3.04 to be a bit better. But it's not doing a bad job as it is. And then of course, we've got no steering angle sensors. It is just a motor on the steering wheel, so there's a certain degree of lethargy when you turn in. You have to be let the guidance come on as soon as possible to try and let it get all squared up, and because you've got a lot to do. Like the linkage on these it's more of a switch than a draft control lever. It's either going up or it's either going down. There's not really much in between, so we're just pulling the plough dead on the floor. Depth is set on the wheels. Just pulling it like a trailer, really. It's a bit like a petulant child, and it sort of does what it wants to do. So we've got a depth ram at the back. We've got the wheels at the front, and then obviously the turnover. Of course, it doesn't follow particularly well when you're turning in, and you have to like have it tilted over so that it actually sets it square. Because if you come into the landing it up, the centre of the plough is off to the ploughed side, so you have to try and get all that squared up. And of course, as you set in, press guidance, the crawler's got to find out where it is in the world. So it takes a little bit of a while for it to go and then come square, and then you got to have enough revs on for the steering to actually work. So I'm running at about 1600 RPM at 6.5k. That's just going down there pretty straight. I think this is as good as it'll get, if I'm honest. We'll try and get in it and drive it. It's not easy holding the phone, getting the dog under control and getting in. Mars, come on! Good boy. Hit. So M750. So I'll kind of tilt the plough across so you've got that. So when you lift the plough up, you pull the small valve to here, and then that rocking headstock flicks over, and then you have to put the spool the other way for the plough to go back down. You have to be careful not to turn too tight, because if you turn too tight you'll hit the wheels on the plough and give that a puncture. So we're running an 18 metre headland, so got the front of the plough down, got the back down, and the crawler's just trying to do the crawler wiggle, just so it, see it does a bit of a to start with. Once you've got revs up and you're going a little bit harder, it settles itself down. Doesn't take long really. Got enough revs on, it'll do it pretty quick. You see at the end you get a bit of a, you don't quite get dead perfect because I'm trying to film at the same time. It's quite, it is heavy in here. And we're going with, I think this field just intrinsically, because of how it is, always gets ploughed in this direction, so there'll be a little bit of up and down. But quite happy with it, it's going well. Trimble's performing, it's behaving. Doesn't move much. Very little movement. We find we've got John Deere on two of the other ones. I've never seemed to be able to get it set quite so well, to be fair. Trimble always just I find it just outperforms the Deere system on these crawlers for some reason. But there we go. Challenger 75C, probably all due to tears.